A special recommendation to one of our newly retired officers. If we could have former officer Chris Holden and Police Chief Norman come up to the front. It's pretty rare when we get somebody that's willing to stay in especially a small community like Newcastle for an extended period of time. Chris has 19 years with us at the city of Newcastle. We appreciate his service, and if being a police officer wasn't a glutton for punishment enough, he decided to be a teacher.
I'll talk to you. Double doozy.
You have anything you want to say?
The department stuff's kind of missing. Chris and I have been through a lot together. It's going to be hard to replace extremely well.
We appreciate your service. We appreciate what you've done for the city of Newcastle. Talk to us and wish you the best.
Man, I just want to thank you guys, man. You have that's officers, fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate it. Come here. Get somebody worth taking a picture of
Hey,
you.
yeah. Come on. First, I'm just here to make sure we're early retired.
I'd love to like this one last time.
One more time, I can act like a lion.
I didn't go out.
Once you said brother home, Scott.
It's a long drive home.
Slow drive.
Thank you, Kevin.
Chris,
Well, I'll tell you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
sir.
ma'am.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, if everybody promises to be good tonight, they'll probably already leave here in a little bit.
What?
All right, at this time, I will call the June 10th, 2024 meeting of the Newcastle Public Works Authority to order. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Carl Now,
Here.
Mike Fullerton,
Here.
Gene Reed, absent, Kimberly Sutton, absent, Marcy White.
Here.
And I will suspend this meeting for just a second. I apologize, I forgot to do our opening prayer and flag salute. So if everyone will rise, we will do that. Let's pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for the day, and we thank you for the opportunity to gather here tonight to conduct the city's business. We appreciate Officer Holden, appreciate those that are willing to put their life on the line to protect the citizens of our community. We're very blessed in Newcastle to have police, fire, and others that are willing to give of their time and of their efforts to serve this community. As we do the business of the city tonight, we ask that you lead, guide, and direct us in all that we do. We ask these things in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, sorry. All right, item number 2, discussion of possible action on approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and seconds for approval of the agenda.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White,
Yes.
Carl Now.
Yes. Item number 3, citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for any citizen to comment on any matter related to the City of Newcastle Public Works that is not on the agenda. Might remind the potential speakers that all speakers shall clearly state their name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with only one speaking opportunity. Board members will not respond to comments or questions. The chair may end the comment period at his discretion, and prior authorization is required for distribution of materials or to approach the board. This time, is there any public comment concerning City of Newcastle Public Works? Seeing none, move on to item number 4, consent agenda. Is there any member of the Board of Trustees that would like to have any item removed from the consent agenda and addressed individually?
No.
All right, seeing none, item 4, consent agenda.
A motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion is second for approval of the consent agenda.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 5, discussion and possible action on any items removed from the consent agenda. Be no action on that agenda item. Item number 6, discussion and possible action on adjustment of utility accounts. Item number 6A, account number 03-4465-00, Newcastle Public Schools Field House. Please state your name for the record.
Frank Craven, Newcastle Public School.
All right, Frank, what happened, or do you know what happened, or?
Oh, we repaired a bunch of leaks and it has slowed stuff down a lot. I don't know if something hung at some point and just continued to run and we weren't aware of it, or I didn't have anything when we went to check for leaks and do everything. But thought we would look and see if there's anything we can do. The next month's bill, I think you can see, was 713.
Yeah, back down
36.
to where it was before?
Yes.
And so you got all the leaks fixed, and it appears like you have. So I will make a motion to average the April bill down to the average of the prior 12 months.
Thank you.
Motion.
Is that correct? Because Vita had said it might be higher again the next month.
Shouldn't-
You got them all fixed?
I believe so.
The May bill, the one bill shows to be a bit down. So.
Okay.
Oh,
All right,
Okay.
motion second for adjustment of utility account. Thank you, Frank.
I second.
Okay. Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 6B, account number 10-2761-00, at service address of 528 North Main Street, Caitlin Kirk, on behalf of Jim Ed Grant. Start here. Good evening.
Jim Grant's my grandfather. I'm here for them in place of them, my grandparents. There was a leak at their home. Leak has since been fixed. I have a invoice of the bill if needed.
Yes.
Yes.
If you could provide that to our city clerk, that would be good. What was the date on that, Camille?
May 31st. That was this.
Repaired on the 31st.
May 31st. I was just trying to see whether we were going to catch that. The billing date was 5/24 on the May bill, so there's a good chance this will transition over into the June billing period as well. So it looks like you got it fixed fairly quickly. So I will make a motion that we average both the May and the June bills down to the average of the prior 12 months.
I'll second.
Motion second for adjustment of utility account.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Item number 7, discussion and possible action on authorization for utility adjustments to write off and declare accounts as uncollectible. Item 7A, accounts older than 5 years.
And these are accounts that we just have, or have had trouble with collecting. It happens every so often. It doesn't happen very often, but we come to council every once in a while when they've been through the process and we still just can't collect.
Even through our collection company, we couldn't get anything.
Right.
Well, if they couldn't get anything, there's probably not a whole lot of chance of getting anything.
Obviously, they're closed accounts anyway, right?
Some of them. And then we had a recommendation from the, excuse me, former attorney when this happened before, city attorney, that anything over 5 years, it's best to just go ahead and.
Even, but if they owe a bunch, they still have service with us, do they? If they owe back?
No.
Oh, okay,
no,
that's what I was
service will be
wondering.
shut off. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. Just making sure that's the first
So
time.
the accounts are open, but yet
They're not
they're not
getting
closed.
service. Okay.
Right.
but the valves are closed.
Yes. Yeah,
Gotcha.
meter's probably been pulled as well, I would imagine.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And a lot of these people probably moved years ago from the city and somebody else is at that address
Right.
getting
Right.
service, but their account's still in arrears.
Cool.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 7.
Rep needed it one at a time, so 7A.
Oh, sorry, 7A.
Second for approval item 7A.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 7B. Accounts held in the name of decedents.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 7B.
Second.
Motion second for approval item 7B.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. And item 7C, accounts owing less than $4.
Make motion to approve agenda item 7C.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 7C.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Earl Nell.
Yes. Item number 8, presentation and discussion regarding citizen opt-in solid waste recycling program. Lisa Brewer from Fertile Ground.
Hi, thank you guys for having me. I am Lisa Brewer. I live in the Crystal Lakes neighborhood, and I've been here actually just since October. So got here, realized that we didn't have any recycling going on, and so I bothered Mr. Nail until he finally said that I could come talk about it. I work for Fertile Ground up in Oklahoma City, which is a worker-owned cooperative. We transform waste into community wealth by repurposing compostable and recyclable materials. We really try to cultivate an equitable workplace and also an equitable community around us. What we're kind of proposing is biweekly pickups curbside in 96-gallon bins, which you guys already are familiar with because we have that outside as our trash. This is completely optional. This is not something that would be mandated by the city. We take plastics 1, 2, and 5, steel cans, aluminum, paper, and cardboard that's broken down. We are not able to take glass, as I don't know if a lot of you guys are aware that the state of Oklahoma said that we can't take glass in recycling. It's considered a contaminant right now. So we have to take that separately. But we're ideally looking for 100 houses to start this business up in Newcastle. We're already doing this in Moore. We're doing it in Norman. We're doing it in Nichols Hills, Lake Aluma, just to name a few places that we're really inserting ourselves into the neighborhoods. For if we do 100 houses, that would be $21.65 per household. And we would take care of all of the advertising on our own. So the city of Newcastle wouldn't have to do anything. This is all just basically, I'm just here to kind of propose whether or not you guys would like it. If so, yay, reach out to me. That would be great. So why recycle? Every single piece of plastic that has ever been made is still here on the planet in one form or another. And so we're here to try to make that into something better. We're also preventing the destruction of trees for paper and cardboard, which can be recycled up to 7 times. And steel and aluminum is almost infinitely recyclable. So we are able to continue making things for it. Why to trust us? Our founder, Terry Craghead, when he started this company about 12 years ago, he really got into researching what's called the MRFs, the place that we would take the recycling to make sure that we know exactly what's happening to it. A lot of people think that recycling is kind of a hoax because they think, it goes to China, which it hasn't gone to China since 2017. But they think that it also goes into waterways, which when done improperly, can happen, but here in the States typically doesn't. But we actually research it and we want to know exactly what is happening to it. So we start from the stream of picking it up to researching, going to the MRFs, to the final stream to know exactly what we're doing with these materials. And if you guys didn't want to do that, then we also have our location up in Oklahoma City on South Santa Fe Avenue that is free to bring your recycling and your glass and your compost. And I also kind of wanted to talk about why not glass, like I just said. It is considered a contaminant. I think that's something new from the state of Oklahoma that happened right before I moved here. So unfortunately, that one won't be able to do it. But we can take that separately if you guys wanted a glass service as well. So we actually only charge $18 a month for that. I have some anticipated questions if you guys have any for me. Your answers.
When this was first brought up, we've had a couple of votes on recycling citywide that have not received favorable support from the community. And so when it was brought up, that was my concern that this was a request for something that was going to cost every single citizen in the city. But as it's being proposed, where the only individuals that will have to pay are the ones that desire to have the service, I think that's a pretty good deal for those that feel like this is something they want to do and gives them an option. Yet doesn't place any additional burden on those that do not want to participate. So, I think it's kind of a win-win the way it's been proposed.
How would it be, how would they opt in and how would they make payments? And
That's where our advertising comes in. So our website, fertileground.ok.coop, you'll be able to actually opt in. And I can give everybody here who's interested in my information, business cards, and you guys can email me. If you go on our website, you'll see where we have Recycle More, where a lot of people have opted in that way, and we get it through Squarespace. So we would create that for Newcastle as well. We'll get
So it wouldn't come through, it wouldn't be dealing with our city or anything?
Not at all.
It's just kind of like an independent business?
Yes, yes. I mean, we would appreciate if we could put some yard signs out here and there, but it would be only in the private citizens' homes who are wanting to do this. So just like in more, we understand that the city can't favor a business over another business, and we get that. So we would handle all of that legwork on our own.
That's what my question was, is there like some sort of agreement we have to enter into? Or I guess customer service wise, we would just put their information. If you have questions about it, here's how to get a hold of them on our website so that the city doesn't field calls and things.
Yeah, that would be totally separate from the city.
Right.
Yeah.
And put that disclaimer. Yeah.
Really,
And so you said Squarespace, so they pay through your website or
they do.
or auto pay or whatever.
They do. We get all that set up, and then I actually create the routes. And now that I live here, I know how to get around the city. So I'd be designing the route to minimize gas and labor as much as possible, because that's the greener way to be. So the only thing that I would actually ask for the city, and I would probably just reach out to somebody in a specific department, is if there is, like in Nichols Hills, for instance, we are not allowed to park on one side of one street and things like that. So I would need to know if our truck can be utilized in certain areas or not. But other than that, that's the only thing I'd reach out to the city for.
I'm a citizen, I'm not part of council, but are citizens, if they choose to sign up, are they locked to a contract? Is it a month-by-month thing?
Month by month.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Want to say-
Yes.
So,
Yeah, but go ahead. First, important, please state your name for the record. Every speaker, we kind of want to have one. Yes.
come on, over there.
Okay,
I've never been to the city.
yeah.
Actually, so this is the total synchronicity. I had actually been calling around. My husband and I moved to Newcastle 3 years ago. We absolutely love it here. And we see that it's just growing, exploding all around, right? But I've been a long time recycler and environmentalist. I actually started the recycling program at UCO back in 1998. So I have a bachelor's degree in biology, but I happened to call Camille and say, gosh, where's the recycling in Newcastle? You know, I can't stand throwing plastics and aluminum away, you know, knowing that it stays in the earth forever. So she said, you know what, Fertile Ground is coming, so I'll be the first customer. I'll sign up right now. So I'll get many people to sign up.
What was your name, ma'am?
My first name's Laura, my last name's Lee.
Laura Lee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions from me?
So moving forward, Kevin, if this is something the city was interested in, what would we need to do? I know there's no action listed on the agenda this evening, so we cannot take any action, but
I think the only thing that they would need to do is a business license through the city and start your advertising, because there's nothing really for the city to do to get it going for them.
awesome.
Great. Thank
All
you
right.
guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Army, no action available on that agenda item. Item number 9, discussion and possible action on grant of utility easement to open electric cooperative, OEC, for underground and overhead electric and telecommunication transmission lines out of the other utilities as designated by OEC, extending south of Northeast 16th to service the Newcastle wastewater treatment facility.
This is just lines going to our new wastewater treatment plant.
We definitely want that.
It's absolutely.
Starting to get confused. We call them number 1 and number 2. I'm like, wait, which one is? Wastewater treatment. Yeah. No, we're number 1 and number 2. Or, you know, North Town and South Town. Got a lot going. I think we do need electric there, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, we might need some electricity there.
Any motion?
Make a motion that, to grant the utility easement to OEC for underground and overhead electricity and telecommunications transmission lines and other utilities as designated by OEC, extending south on the Northeast 16th to service the Newcastle wastewater treatment facility.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 9.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White,
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item 10, public hearing discussion and possible action on approval of annual budget of the city of Newcastle, including amendments thereto, if any, for fiscal year July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, to include a 2.5% COLA for all NPWA employees, excluding the NPWA general manager, and adoption of resolution 2024-01.
The
That
budget-
is the correct, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
That is the correct resolution number. It is adopting the budget of the Newcastle Public Works Authority.
Oh,
But the resolution number is correct.
So the budget has not changed for MPWA, with the exception of workers' comp insurance renewal, which actually went down a little bit. So we're in a better spot in that area than we thought we were going to be. Everything else has stayed the same since May 16th during the budget presentation.
We did have a dedicated special meeting on May 16th to discuss and do a deep dive into the budget. But if there is any public comment on this agenda item, I will entertain that at this time. All right. Entertain a motion.
make a motion to approve agenda item 10 for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025 budget as written.
I'll second.
Motion is second for approval of item number 10.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 11, discussion and possible action on approval of adjustment of city hours and employee hourly work week to 9-hour days, Monday through Thursday, and 4-hour days on Fridays for non-uniformed employees.
So we ran this on a trial basis for 60 days, and then we put it out to a vote among all employees whether or not they wanted to keep it. Everybody, there was 2 dissenters on this out of all the employees, and it seemed like everybody has really enjoyed this work schedule and tell just a little bit of difference around City Hall. So
Has there been any negative feedback from the general public?
there has not, and we asked that question. We asked it from the receptionist up front. We also asked it from court and somebody else. And the water department. Yes, nobody received any public complaints about it.
Very good. Anything to improve employee morale?
It does.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 11.
I'll second.
Motion second for approval of item number 11.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 12, discussion and possible action on authorization to advertise for bids for labor and materials for construction of the influent and effluent lines to serve the new wastewater treatment plant.
This was originally planned to be, you want to speak on this?
Go ahead, you start us off. Any questions, I'll be happy. Kenny Sullivan, Glenn Sullivan and Associates, we designed the influent and effluent line to the new plant.
It was originally discussed a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that influent and effluent lines would be installed by MPWA crews. Recently, I have had conversations with the superintendent, and there is concern about the safety of doing this work, especially on the influent line because of the depth in some area there. I can't remember the footage.
We, seems like we've got 700-800 feet that's going to be over 25 feet deep.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And then also the lack of
That's deep.
manpower and the lack of experience to actually install this line. Superintendent has said that he feels they can go ahead and lay the effluent line, which is not near as deep. My only concern about the effluent line, if we have all the projects that are coming up this next year, which was also mentioned by him, with the lack of manpower and things of that nature, how quick that effluent line can get done. And we are coming down to the wire that this project needs to get started because it may be somewhere between 8 and 10 months, is what Kenny and I have discussed, And if that is the case, we're going to be pushing up very close to when this plant, potentially according to Wall Engineering, could be ready to go, operational. So it needs to start yesterday
Yeah.
on these two lines.
We may end up with a bucket brigade.
Yeah.
Get the wastewater over there.
The only thing is, I mean, it needs to be added too that this work was not included in the loan. There's about $900,000 that was included for labor. There was no monies set aside for materials. I would recommend, my recommendation is, and Kenny and I have talked about this along with Wall Engineering as well, that we would use our wastewater treatment plant fund to go ahead and pay for this. We go out to bid. We don't have to use the loan. We don't have to worry about federal regulations and go through that process with OWRB. It's basically just bidding a project and the city pays for it with the money we have. And it really doesn't matter. It's going to come from either a loan or this money anyway. So
Going to cut a lot of money off that loan, not doing it that way, right? Still, every bit counts, so.
I mean, net result is it's going to cost us more to get this done than we thought.
it is.
So, however, I understand both the safety factor
Yeah.
and the timing factor. That, you know, the effluent line should be pretty easy because it's a pressure line. It should be pretty easy digging for whoever we contract, but it's still a mile and a half plus of line somebody's going to have to do. And
16, 18-inch line.
Yeah.
So it's,
That's
you
a
know,
doozy,
it's not,
yeah.
it's not a 6-inch line being laid. So
yeah, and this is the type of material flowing through this line. You don't want any blowouts, so you kind of want it done
No.
right. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's more money than we anticipated for the project, but at this point in time, we don't really have a whole lot of choice. We've got to get it done, and I'm in favor of moving forward with this and doing what we need to do to get it happening.
I don't disagree, especially from the safety. 25 foot. If ever saying they go that, pouring it up and
yeah. 2 or 3 trench boxes
Yeah.
stacked on top of
Yeah.
each other.
that's a lot. That's a lot.
That's why it could take quite a while to do.
Right. Because you're just.
Any motion?
I'll make
I'll second.
Motion second for item number 12.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White,
yes.
Carl Nix.
Yes. Item number 13, monthly treasurer's report.
All right, so this report is over the execution of May. Our second to last month, so our execution rate. City side is within our budget revenue on our revenues, especially after we made the adjustments we made at 92%. And for the first time in a little bit, or within expectations on the expense side too, also at 92. On the NPWA side of the house, we're running behind just a little bit with the revenues at 80.1. Part of that is due to transfers for the taxes we do and some of the capital projects we got going on. But the expenses are only running at 75% on the NPWA side. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. The fire department tax fund has brought in 1.9 million. We have spent 1.86. That's about 67% of what we have spent. Tax has covered. We got one payment for grant fund, Department of Public Safety, in dollars. Point on our 3 of our cover projects, the fire station. We have paid a little over $9.8 million, I believe. Because of the increases for some of the changes that had to be made for the fire station, we did over the pre-approved loan amount. So Kevin and I discussed little bit out of that last pay app to cover out of the fire station fund and the retainage fire station fund too. And then we'll use what's left, of course, to close on the loan, which I'm hoping is still. We had 9 draws for the new wastewater plant, totaling almost $13 million. We had paid draws for our meters, a little over $2.1 million. In the month of May, our sales and use tax came in at $910,000. $760,000 of that was sales, and $150,000 of that was use. For the amendments we did to meet our more realized point, in May we were 1.2% higher than where we budgeted to be, so that's a good spot to be. We're 8.35% higher than last year and 15.4% higher than the year before. Our current indebtedness is a little over $24 million. We'll have 3 big contracts to close that on, or 3 big projects right now. Quick rundown of our city fund balances. General fund is $2.16 million. Capital improvement tax fund is $2.45 million. The economic development tax fund is $35.6 thousand. Cemetery care fund is $39.3 thousand. Parks capital improvement $166 thousand. Fire station fund is $2.82 million. Admin and tech, just to mention too, the fire station fund will, as soon as we close on that loan, we won't have that fund anymore. That will finally be done. The admin and technology fund is $231,000. Grant cost share fund is $2.57 million. Impact fee fund is $222,000. On the NPWA side of the house, Public Works is sitting at $2.71 million. The water impact fee, $1.59 million. Wastewater impact fee, $796,000. Wastewater plant fund is currently $7.44 million. And our meter fund is $315,000. All funds combined, we had almost $1 million more in revenue at this point than expenses. Are there any questions for me?
So, thank you, Jeannie. Item number 14, general manager's comments.
I don't have
Number 15, trustee comment. Item number 16 is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion second for adjournment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. This time I'll call the June 10th, 2024 meeting of the Newcastle City Council to order. First item on the agenda is a roll call.
Carl Nell,
Here.
Mike Fullerton,
Here.
Jean Reed, absent, Kimberly Sutton, absent, Marcy White.
Here.
Item number 2, discussion and possible action on approval of the agenda.
Agenda.
Motion second for approval of the agenda.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White,
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 3, citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for any citizen to comment on any matter related to the city of Newcastle that is not on the agenda. Once again, I might remind all speakers that they shall clearly state their name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person with only 1 speaking opportunity. Council members will not respond to comments or questions. The mayor may end comment period at his discretion, and prior authorization is required for distribution of materials or to approach the council. Are there any citizens' comments related to the city of Newcastle? Seeing none, move to item number 4, consent agenda. Are there any items any member of council desires to be removed from the consent agenda and addressed individually? Seeing none, item number 4, consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion second for approval of the consent agenda.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 5, discussion of possible action on any items removed from the consent agenda. No action on that agenda item. Item number 6, discussion regarding water capacity in the southwest quadrant of the city from Highway 130 to Southwest 24th Street, north and south, and Highway 62 to Highway 76, east and west.
Good evening again. Mr. Self contacted me a couple of weeks ago concerning a development, Chickasaw Crossing, coming in adjacent to the Oaks Booster Station. I think you all have my report. We originally did your hydraulic model back in 05, 06 timeframe. It's been updated over the years. you're getting a more calibrated one at the time, but we used the old model and modeled, looked at the amount of connections in the Oaks area as well as the Pulchella area, two higher pressured areas served by booster stations, basically adjacent to each other. What we found is what they're wanting to do is phase one, they're wanting to add 116 lots. Common sense says you can't add 116 lots, which is 25% of the Oaks booster station capacity, without having a little bit of effect. And specifically, the one area that gets affected the worst, and it's not much, but it is affected, is the Timber Ridge area. It ties onto the Oaks with a 4-inch and then a 2-inch line and extends way up the hill. That is the most susceptible area that they've got. When we modeled it at DEQ standards, which is 1 gallon per minute per meter, that doesn't sound like a lot, but for the whole city, it would end up being 5-6 million gallons a day, maybe more than that. In this area, it's about, in the Oaks area, it ends up being in the 350 gallon a minute range. There is a little bit of transfer that gets by a small line that goes toward Pulchella, trying to help that area out. What we're finding is the 116 has a minimal effect, but there is an effect nonetheless. So we come up with some recommendations. And then in speaking with the engineer for the developer, he says that they are, I did not model them tying back in with their line that came through phase one. He says they are tying into an existing 4-inch. So I think that that effect may be minimal. 1 or 2 psi, probably not noticeable. So the fact is, the later phases, that booster station cannot handle the later phases. I think it can handle what they've got now. But again, there is a minimal effect. The people up on the hill are in the, under 40 psi to start with. So any effect, it's tough to notice 1 or 2 psi, but if anyone's going to, it's going to be the low ones. Not unlike what we dealt with at Manor Lakes several years ago. So, do you want me to go over the recommendations? Do you want to ask some questions? It's tough to give a hydraulics 101.
Yeah, and one of the biggest concern I have, Kenny, is you do your modeling and you based on volume. The problem comes in July and August when the demand goes way up.
Right.
And at certain times of the day when the demand goes up, and that's when we see those pressure issues occur. Everybody gets home in the summer and they're outside doing whatever it is they do, and there's a lot of water usage that then we already have significant issues that, if you average that out over an entire 12-month period, I'd have plenty of water potentially without there being an impact. But during that 2 to 3 month period in the summer, we already have issues there that are noticeable. And my concern is whatever we do for this new development, we do it in a manner that there is no potential detectable or indetectable pressure drop.
Sure.
Even in those most critical times in your July and August evening time periods.
Right.
We don't make a bad situation worse by adding more houses onto something we know is already struggling.
Well, you give this the eye test. You've got a 500 gallon a minute booster station. That's 500 gallons a minute at a set pressure. If it has to pump more than 500 gallons a minute, it's going to be a reduced pressure. There just has to be some kind of effect when you're adding something that's going to take away 25% of the capacity of that booster station. That's what 116 lots is, basically.
Yeah, it's, what I want and what I would like to see is something that we go in with this approval knowing that whatever we're requiring to be done on phase 1, 2, and beyond
Right.
is going to more than make up for the added load, and we're not going to see any degradation of
Right.
the service we already have there.
I'd like to see, along those lines, typically this kind of thing is handled with a development agreement. That way, everything's in writing. Here's what they have to do to get the next phase, the next phase, the next phase.
Okay, so you got some recommendations here.
Yes.
We can work through those a little bit.
We asked that the developer extend his 12-inch that's coming through his development. He's got it down to 24th right now. We want him to extend it further west to Twisted Oak. The city already has a line. City's line that they're constructing or under design with from Ross, which is over at Richland, over to Twisted Oak, is not going to help. I mean, that's going to help Richland. That's not going to help the Oaks. What we need is the developer to bring one over and loop it so that we basically have two good feeds into the Oaks. That will make up the difference in the additional demand coming there at Chickasaw Crossing. The next one would be to require the developer to put up money in later phase for upgrading that booster station. He's planning 116 with phase one and an additional 253 in the remaining phases. That's way more than what that booster station is rated for, so it's going to have to be upgraded. Our initial thoughts, talking with staff, are we can get a bigger pump in that building, but eventually down the road, we're going to need something more substantial, and there's talk of, and it doesn't have to be decided tonight, it doesn't have to be decided with a development agreement, but there is talk that eventually we're going to go with possibly one big booster station that would handle the Oaks, Chickasaw Crossing, Richland Park, and all the way up to Pulchella. There's talk of a large diameter line in and up at the hospital. So those things need to be thought of. But the first phase that's going to happen with this increased capacity is larger pump in the existing building. We would ask that the developer put a little money up later, some of the later phases, probably through a development agreement, and for city staff to be ready to do that as soon as next year, depending on when stuff starts coming online.
There's a possibility, we're still in the additional talks with the nation, but there's a possibility of a new water tower close to there, which could help solve a lot of these problems.
It could.
In 5 years, this may be somewhat of a moot point, but
Right.
today and until that point in time, and we don't know that that's
That's why we're not ready to name phase two, but phase one definitely is going to have to happen in the next year or so, and that's probably going to be upsizing some pumps in the station. And then that's the 12-inch line. His 12-inch line eventually in future phases is going to come all the way from the booster station. Phase one, he's tying into Lakeview Drive, existing line on Lakeview Drive coming in, and phase one is actually in the southern part of his development. We are asking that he kind of move up the timeline on completing that 12-inch all the way to the booster station. If he's only got one more phase after this, then he would do it with that phase. If he's got 2 or 3 phases, we would like that 12-inch done with the next phase.
Where's the boost? Sure, we talked about last month and I forgot.
Booster is at Lakeview Drive and is that Redland?
Redmond?
Redmond.
Oh, back by the.
It's right adjacent to the tower.
Okay.
It basically draws water directly out of that tower.
Okay. That's basically the north end of that neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought Carl was getting up to do a.
I'm sorry.
He needs to percolate.
Okay. Okay, so I have a question. You said you feel like it can work with phase one, but are you saying you can work with phase one with some of these recommendations, at least the number one recommendation? Or are you saying, like, what exactly?
I would, to stand up here and say there is going to be zero effect with phase one as is, I can't do that.
Okay.
I think it'll be minimal. It may or may not even be noticeable, but I just don't see any way that 116 houses coming in on that booster station are not going to have at least a little effect, especially on the most sensitive area, which is Timber Ridge. Again, I think there's 15 to 17 houses on a 2-inch line. That's a lot of velocity, and it pulls a lot of pressure off of it. We can't stand anything over there.
So, well, because what stressed me out was you saying 500-gallon-a-minute booster, and we're already hearing issues with that booster that's working. There's already issues, and then we're going to take up 25% of it with new ones. So is the extend the 12-inch line to Twisted Oak going to counterbalance that?
No, to be honest, if you've already got problems with that booster, that's going to hurt it.
Right, and then am I remembering right from the discussion, whether it's the booster or what it is, we're already having issues with what's sitting there working right now, right?
Well, in the peak months, yes. During the summertime, pressures do drop.
Okay, but putting a 12-inch to Twisted Oak,
If that's the case, then to be honest, I wouldn't recommend it with phase 1 until you get a bigger pump. Because when you complete a 12-inch to Twisted Oak, and then the city's line goes on over to Richland Park, you're going to send quite a bit of water, because that whole area, Richland Park and Pulchella, are overloaded also.
yeah, that's what.
I didn't understand that the Oaks had a problem. I thought most of the problem was in Pulchella.
No, pressure gets weak in the Oaks during the summertime.
In that case, I would not do the 12-inch to Twisted Oak right now.
The bigger, then you would flip-flop that and put your number 1 recommendation. I know they weren't necessarily, if you were going to order them, you'd put that number 2, the booster.
Yeah, I would not do it with phase 1 until you get a bigger pump.
Well, no, your fourth booster station, that's separate from the developer putting up money for a larger booster station.
Yeah, I generally do not like for a developer to have control on the design and construction of a booster station that the city's going to operate.
Right.
I would rather they put money up toward it and let you do it as necessary. I just do not like them to have the design. That ought to be kept in-house.
It's not the same as putting the lines in and turning them
No,
over.
or even a tower. It operates on its own. I really think that ought to stay in the city's control.
You think now after this discussion that probably the city should require some contribution from the developer to go ahead and get a larger pump in the Oaks booster station prior to?
I would think so. If you're already having problems in peak month, 116 more houses is not going to help that. So any money that, and I've talked with the developer's engineer and told him, my recommendations, just to give him a heads up. I would say any money that was going to go toward that probably ought to go toward the booster station and not do that 12-inch.
But eventually,
I promise you that is going to hurt you. That's going to send more water over to Richland Park. Unless your problems at Richland Park are worse than the problems at the Oaks. I mean, we'd be chasing it.
well, eventually the intent is to get a 12-inch line over there.
Yeah.
To hook where the city's coming from, the Ross Drive area. Long term, the goal is to get a 12-inch all the way over to 62.
Yeah.
Right.
But we'll still need that 12-inch to be provided at some point in time,
Right.
correct?
Right.
And that needs to be in there as well. I think 5 to 7 years from now, this wouldn't be a problem
No.
Right.
with what we've got coming. And we know the infrastructure that's going to be moved into that area, but my concern was adverse impact on the existing residents there.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
And so that's the big deal. We need to make sure whatever we do is going to more than compensate for any impact. So
Big ticket item for a bigger booster, huh?
Really expensive.
To upgrade the pumps, generally the rule of thumb on like a water booster station pump is $1,000 a horsepower. So you could be looking 25 to 50 just for the pump. Now then, the next step, that phase 2, when we go with a bigger booster station, Goldsby built one, 400 gallons a minute, smaller than what you've got, and that was $500,000. That was low bid. So yeah, your next step, if you go bigger and you go in all one, you're probably looking at a 3-pump system, a fairly large booster station. Yeah, you'll be north of $1 million.
How much do you think we can?
I would like to think you could get. I'd like to think we could get some 750s in there. At least one of them. We upgraded it once with green projects that we did. Remember right, that they were 200 gallon a minute pumps and 4-inch piping at the time. We went with 6-inch piping and 500 gallons a minute now. I think we can do one more, but not going to be able to feed that whole.
And eventually, probably long term, we're looking at another water tower somewhere in
Yeah,
the top part of town,
that'd be nice.
southwest part of town.
Then instead of trying to maintain pressure with a booster, all we got to do.
Just several million, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Several. What's that go up to? 9? 9 million? More than several?
More.
A whole lot of severals.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Wait for the budgets before we do that.
That's right. I'm holding out. I'm holding out.
Want to hear from the developer's engineer on this one, or you want to wait for the next item?
I wouldn't mind hearing his thoughts on this. We've heard yours, and we'll talk about yours.
Considering we've
Again.
kind of changed some things.
Yep. So we'll.
Good afternoon. Kendall Dillon with Craft and Toll, representing the applicant. And let me start off. And, sometimes you just end up in one of those situations, right? And, it's tough on you all, it's tough on us. And certainly want you to know, we love working in this town. We love working with staff. They do a great job. But, just to paint a little bit of a picture of where we've been, several months ago when we come in with the PED, it become knowledgeable that, hey, there's potentially pressure problems in Newcastle Oaks. But that was the only discussion was Newcastle Oaks, not Pulchella, not Richland Park, anywhere else, just, Newcastle Oaks. So at that time, we agreed that, we'll do a hydraulic analysis of our system, and we'll go ahead and model Newcastle Oaks. And if the hydraulic analysis shows that it works, then it works. If not, then we'll do whatever it takes to make that work, right? So we submitted our plans, got the engineering comments. We showed in our analysis that there wasn't really, especially with phase 1, that there was no impact. And I know Kenny mentioned, because logically you think, hey, there's got to be a demand, and so there's got to be some impact. But what we're also doing is that from the booster station, the Oaks booster, it splits and goes 2 ways, but we're tying into it with the larger line, and then we're actually taking it down and looping it into the 4-inch line to provide a loop through that. I think that's the reason that our phase 1 is not showing any impact in regards to domestic flow in Newcastle Oaks. But we submitted that hydraulic analysis to your staff. We got comments back. We had an agreement. We got all of our plans approved. We were scheduled to be in Planning Commission in April. We had our plans in time, but for whatever reason, things didn't work out. We didn't get on the April docket. We get placed on the May docket. We come to Planning Commission in May. We have a discussion about the hydraulic analysis. Your engineer was here. We discussed it. We got it approved at Planning Commission. Everything seemed to be fine. I get a call a few days later saying, hey, we need you to come visit with us because we're still concerned about the pressures, which we did. And I think we agree. And let me say this, I think our client, we're want to be good partners and we're willing to do some things. But from that meeting, it was my understanding that it appeared as though we were in agreement that phase 1,
was fine, no improvements required, but let's figure out what needs to happen in the future. So let's go to city council and try to get phase one approved, and then we'll work out your impacts moving forward in the future before you turn dirt. I wasn't available to be at that meeting, so I sent one of the other representatives from our company. I think you all were uncomfortable about where we were moving, so we deferred it to figure out what's going to happen next. Kenny called me on Thursday of last week, and I didn't answer his call. I called him back on Friday, and I finally got the report at 8:45 this morning, which basically says, his recommendations are that we need to make all these other improvements. And you can see how, especially out there paying interest on your loans, plus we got contractors geared up that at the last minute, we're like, hey, now it looks like we're going to have to do all these things. You can see how that is a little bit frustrating to a developer. But to kind of get to the chase, our analysis shows that it functions fine, that there's not an adverse impact on Newcastle Oaks. And I think it's with the phase one, because it does loop back into that 4-inch down south. So that's what our analysis shows. Kenny mentions that that's a 500-gallon pump, but at what pressure? We went out and have an independent company that goes out in different places in your system, and we flow it to actually get the residual and the flow. So we use that to balance the system, and that's what we run a hydraulic from. So we're not just assuming that it's a pump. That would actually come out of the system. So I don't know exactly how that, we can correlate that with Kenny's numbers, but nonetheless, what we've submitted shows that phase one has no impact, right? And even the overall, we show, because we're doing some different things and we're taking a 12-inch from the booster station straight over to Newcastle Oaks, we show that it has an impact, but it's not significant, even in that model. But I will say this, not to jump ahead, but I think my client, he certainly wants to be a good partner. We want to mitigate any impact that we would have. So I think he's willing, if we can move forward with phase one, as it is with no improvements, then I think he's willing to enter into agreement with you all that phase two, he would extend the 12-inch line from Twisted Oak to our side. But I think if we can move forward with that agreement, otherwise I think we'll just have to continue it and look at the analysis. But when I look at what's going on, it seems to me that even that 12-inch line, I agree with Kenny for sure, that if that were to go in today, I think it's just going to steal water from Newcastle Oaks. It appears to me that even in a full build out, especially if you don't increase those pumps, but it seems like that line to me, if that low pressure zone's further west, that it's going to benefit Richland Park and Pochello more than it's going to do anything for Newcastle Oaks or any of the ones in this zone. So, that's kind of our analysis of it. I think our request would be is we would like to ask that you approve phase one without any further improvements than what we proposed, with an agreement that with phase two, we'll extend the 12-inch line from Twisted Oak to our side.
Which is a whole lot less than what Kenny has recommended. So now we've got, and I'm not an engineer and I don't pretend to be one, and I know you did your hydraulic analysis and you've done pressures and you've done flows, but you haven't done those pressures and flows in August and July. And I'm sure there's great modeling on it, but we've seen in the past where we've had great modeling, and then when you start cobbling all these smaller lines together, you don't have the volume at that pressure when you get the significant demand on it to maintain that, and the modeling fails. And that's what I don't want. Like I said, we've had situations multiple times in the city where we've had modeling that said there shouldn't be any problem, and it ends up being a really big problem, and then that falls back on the city, where we have to come in then and we have to spend a lot of money to fix a problem. Now, if you're confident enough in your modeling that you'll guarantee there won't be any pressure issues for anybody, and you'll guarantee that you'll do whatever's necessary to address that in the future, that's something we could look at too in some type of an agreement. But in the past, it's always fallen back on the city when the modeling has failed to be accurate, and we end up having to spend a lot of money because we're on the hook then, and we've got our citizenry that's not getting that water pressure.
So the model includes a peaking factor of 4 for the domestic use. But not only that, what's included, if you actually look at what goes into those numbers, that's including 3.5 persons per dwelling unit. If you were to look at the census in your town, it's really 2.5. So not only do you have that, but also that peaking factor. I'm not sure how else we're going to account for that other than those peaking factors as well as the coefficients, us utilizing a 1.3 throughout the system, even on the new part, that helps add conservatism into that model. But that's the way that we would do it everywhere we go, every model. I mean, so it's the standard practice, and it shows what it shows. So, that's our proposal, is that we approve phase one, and with the condition that we will extend that 12-inch line. If we can't get there and that's not agreeable, then I'm not sure where that leaves us, because there's no way, one, that I can come in on those recommendations and say, hey, we should pay for a pump. What's the amount? What would we pay toward that pump? That's too open-ended. But so you see what I'm saying? And we're 3 months into this, having an approved plan to figure out now that we've got a problem. So I don't know, that's the reason, if you put that 12-inch in with this first phase, it's going to suck water out of Newcastle Oaks and it's going to send it to Richland Park. So how do we get from where we sit tonight for us to move forward without trusting the models that we've given?
Can I ask when the pressures and stuff was taken and the volumes were?
Yeah, I think it was March.
During the,
But again, keep in mind, the way that we do those is there's a peaking factor that's including in those calculations for the model.
My question is,
And we get, and I didn't mean to cut you off,
go ahead.
but even at, it's the pumps are 500 gallons per minute at a pressure range. And is that 75 PSI? Because, even the test we took, we flowed 800 to 900 GPM and with a residual of 57 PSI. So you see what I'm saying? There's a point that, yeah, you can always say, hey, it's going to have some impact, but no matter where you go, every development's going to have an impact. So where's that threshold as to where this development pushed it below the threshold, and is it entirely that development's responsibility? So that's kind of what we're dealing with on this. But when we look at domestic flow and we look at the pressures that, again, it's the model, so we're going off of that, but it stays above 50s, which should be fine.
so my concern is, I guess everybody has their piece in this. Our piece is we're sitting here as citizens representing the citizens, and we're already getting complaints. So we can go back and forth about where it goes, but when it comes to us, that's our perspective. And there's already complaints from Richland Park, from the Oaks, and so we answer straight for why are you putting something new in? And yeah, you're the new guy coming in at this point, but that's where we have to answer from. And I don't have an answer to say, yeah, we let him come in, and by the way, we didn't make him do anything to help what's already being complained about. And that's my place where I sit with it and have to decide from.
So just a question so that I'm coming at it from the right approach. Is our responsibility, are we going to stop it at Newcastle Oaks, or are we going to extend our responsibility to Pulcello, however you said, and Richland Park?
Well,
to the different pressure zone.
I understand that, and I'm not even saying if you want to come in, you have to fix everybody else's. I'm just saying I have to look at if you want to come in, can we handle it?
My deal is, if you want to come in, that you don't adversely impact any of the existing customers. So if you come in and what you're doing is going to adversely impact the Oaks, then we would expect you to offset that. If it's going to adversely impact anything else, that's what I'm asking for. I'm not looking for you to build a system that's going to improve service to Pulcello. I am looking for you to do something that's going to do no harm, to make sure that whatever you do when you bring your development to our community, it's not going to adversely impact the existing residents. And that's all I'm after.
Sure.
I don't expect you to build anything for Pulcello or for Richland Park or anything else.
Right.
I want you to build what's necessary to make sure you take care of your own development without adversely impacting anybody else.
Understood. And again, keep in mind, I'm certainly not trying to be disagreeable, but hopefully you see the position I'm in as well, to where we've given that, but you all don't, you're saying it's not right. So now it leaves me in a quandary of where are we at? So if my numbers aren't right, exactly what's wrong with them, which I don't know at this point. And how do I move forward? Except for just say, okay, we'll extend the line and we'll pay you for that booster station. So then it's me just saying, hey, you know, look, giving no thought or consideration to what it really is solving, what it's not. It's just me saying, okay, we agree. I mean, does that make sense on my standpoint or our argument on
Yeah.
moving forward with this?
It does. No, the biggest problem is we're putting an addition in an area we don't have, in my opinion, adequate service capacity without some improvement. And just allowing you to come in there and hook onto the existing system, which we know already has limitations, that's my concern. And, you know, we've gotten a plan to hook all these 4-inch lines and other lines together to try to make something work in an area. And I think that's where I have major concerns is, you know, 4-inch lines can only carry so much volume. And like I said, I'm not an engineer and I'm not trying to second guess that. I've just seen time and time again where in August and in July, when we've allowed developments to go in, we're the ones that field those calls and we're the ones that take the beating through email and on social media because it's much worse than it used to be before we let that new addition come in. So, I mean, I'm just asking you to pay your own way, basically, in our infrastructure. And whatever it is that we can do together, work collaboratively to make that happen, I'm all for. And so I'm not against the development at all. I would love to see it happen. I think it's going to be a great deal. But I just want to make sure that we're, as the city and the citizens, are being made whole, and without expecting you to boost anything we've already got there. Just don't hurt it.
Okay, so, right. So how do we, because you've got a report, Kenny's given you a report, I've given you a report for this phase. So, you know, that's what my report shows for phase 1. I don't see, like, what is our fair share to pay or to do? Is it simply everything that Kenny's recommended? I mean, I'll listen from you all of what it is that I need to take back to my client. This is your portion. And I think that's what we were trying to do by saying we'll extend in phase 2 the line from Twisted Oak to our development. But I think from, you know, I'm not going to add words in your mouth, but it sounds like that you all are in agreement that that moves the needle on this discussion. So I, you know, from you all's perspective, what should I do? Just simply everything he's recommended, which I can't do tonight for sure. But where does that leave us on how do we move forward?
Well, you know, from what Kenny said, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, Kenny, you know, his recommendation first and foremost would be we have to have an upgrade to that booster station that's existing there to, in his opinion, guarantee no adverse impact on the Oaks. Is that correct, Kenny?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Off there. Pocket City has plenty on their plate. A lot of peas on their fork. Jim has done those booster stations. Cost effective. You have to upgrade that.
So would we break the cost share based upon the amount of future lots compared to the existing
I
lots?
think we could look at it that way. I think we could look at it that way. What kind of, you know, what kind of capacity can we get out of that booster station? Gallons per minute in the DEQ. Getting what they're getting and that way.
What do we do in one zone? How do we look at that?
Well,
Everything in that
no,
zone?
we take that out for now. We take this as a standalone zone, and the city needs to realize that when you start tying all these zones together and you start losing flow, then I think you'd have to make it as simple as possible and say, we're looking at this zone, we're looking at the Oaks, and anything connected to the Oaks right now. This has to be done pre 12-inch line down to Ross. at it standalone. Doesn't mean you don't construct that line, but we look at it standalone. Setup.
And then when you talk about the future larger booster station, when we start looking at phase 2, are you still on board with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's one that has to be decided. That could end up being tower the same height as what you got, then you're still gonna have a booster.
Right.
If it's a larger tower, we've talked for years, Carl, about a larger tower somewhere over there. This whole area. That, I don't think I think we're gonna muddy the water getting into that right now.
Right.
I think we try to figure out what helps you, what helps them. And anything above that, when you start constructing and feeding that off, that's gonna have to be city share. If that starts causing a problem, then
Yeah, and I agree with that. And my big concern with this is I don't want to say, okay, phase 1, we'll do this, and then we'll look at what we need to do in the future for phase 2. And I don't think the developer wants that either.
No.
There needs to be some certainty with this. And so, how do we make sure that they don't do phase 1 and they say, well, we're building and you guys are just going to have to deal with it, and we're going to build phase 2 and you deal with it. And I think there's going to have to be some acknowledgement that moving towards the next phase, something's going to happen and be better off if we knew that going into things for them, because they don't have to build out development and then figure out it's going to cost them a whole lot of money.
well, I think we could come up with an estimated cost. Or under would be adjusted. With an estimated cost, it'd be a material list. We know what the labor's gonna be. the
Right.
labor
Right.
cost, but we can come up, once we size the pump, fittings, the pipe,
Okay,
we can come up with a cost on all that,
gotcha. A real estimate,
a real estimate.
right, okay.
Kendall, when do you guys think you would be looking at phase 2? Would you roll right into?
I mean, it's all market driven, but
Yeah.
I would say 18 months probably.
Mhm.
But, it'll take us at least a year to build it. But now, I mean, we've had, like I say, we got contractors ready to go, but we're kind of stalling. So, and I get it, right? And we want to be good partners, and we're trying, but we also don't want to pay for more than just mitigating hours. And like I say, there's some frustration in the fact that we're at this point having this discussion. We still have the hydraulic analysis that still nobody said, hey, this is what's wrong with it. And I trust Kenny fully. Kenny's a great engineer. You have every reason to trust him. So I'm cutting my own throat, but that's the reality of it. The only thing I get, and I want to be careful about on the cost sharing with the increased booster, is it seems to me, I don't think there's any doubt that this 12-inch, because at some point you're laying a 12-inch now from Richland Park back to Twisted Oak, and it doesn't seem to me that that's for the benefit of Newcastle Oaks, that would be more for the Richland Park.
Right.
And so really, when we connect our 12-inch up and then if you don't increase the booster, you're helping Richland Park and you're doing nothing for Newcastle Oaks.
Well,
The only way it's going to benefit Newcastle Oaks is to do that and put that booster in. But in doing all that, you're really sending water still to your lower pressure zone back west. So I just want to make sure that however, we're good as long as it's fair.
So flat, you want a flat effect?
I'm just saying that, we don't want to pay for half of a booster pump, that the reality of it is it's pressuring up Richland Park and
That's
Pulchella.
why I say,
Right.
regardless of what they're constructing, we're gonna draw a line on the map. Here's our number of services.
As long as we can, but
And we're gonna put as big as we can. If all we really need with yours and their existing is 650, and we can get an 800 gallon a minute pump in there, you'll only pay your share of that 650.
Right, cost allocated, right.
Like I said before, if we were 5-7 years down the road, this wouldn't be an issue because there will be much better water service to that area, but we've got to make it to them.
Right.
And our goal, you talk about the Ross Drive to Twisted Oak. That's part of a long range plan to eventually get that 12-inch line over to 62, potentially hooking in not very far from the 18 inch, or we may even extend that down. But, so we're going to continue to improve that. It's just that we don't have the funds to be able to build that now. And so we've got to figure out a way to make this work.
Okay. Well, I like to say, I think that's our proposal for the, but short of that, which it doesn't sound like we're getting there, then this is not I'll wait till the next application, but I don't think we have any choice but to defer it. And then I would like to think we can have it worked out in time for the next, the July meeting, I guess.
That sounds good. And like I said, we're willing to, I am willing to do everything we can, but I have to have assurances that in August and July, when we already have issues, they're not going to be worse.
Give us a chance to pull some August and July numbers
Yeah.
too. For the phone.
We can, it's gonna, and especially in terms of impact, it's gonna be relevant. Because if the flow tests go down, then you've already got less pressure, so our impact goes with it. It's gonna be the same.
Yeah, but just because you have sucky service doesn't mean you need to make it a little bit suckier.
Well, I'm just saying, there would be no impact from us, is what I'm getting at.
I still don't think you can add houses to a system that's struggling and there be no impact. But I'm not.
But if you loop it, but nonetheless, I think we're beating a dead horse at this point.
I think we are.
I don't want to agitate anybody because I love you guys.
Carl, could I muddy the water just a little bit?
Make it
We're
quick.
done.
I'll make it quick.
You want me to answer that for you?
Well, Jim, and when we talked about this before, with Jim there, he's talking about that whole area being one pressure area. And I'm concerned that if we just isolate this one, or isolate this segment now, it's a real Band-Aid. And how much money do we want to ask them to contribute on something that we're doing that's a temporary Band-Aid? And maybe we ought to get him back in here to talk about how's this all going to flow together rather than pressure up this area right here and get it where it is. Now, maybe that's the only way to fix it. I'm kind of like you. I can say I'm an engineer, but I was stuff. This doesn't flow quite the same.
Is Polcello paying as well? So because they still have development left, right?
They still have development left, but that's one of those situations I don't want to get into again, where we approve a development because we have hydraulic analysis that shows we've got plenty of water, and now we don't. And we've kind of owned that one, and I don't want to own another problem like that, because that one was approved a long, long time ago, and we were assured by the engineers and everybody involved that we weren't going to have any problems down there. And lo and behold, we have problems down there, and we have problems down there even when it's not in the summer. And so that's one of the situations I don't want to repeat, because there were engineers standing there saying we won't have problems. Our hydraulic analysis is great. Everything's rosy. And that we didn't really see the issues with that for years, because the housing market kind of went down and that kind of stagnated in that development. And once it kicked off again, lo and behold, we've got problems.
Forget I asked that question.
That's what I don't want to see a repeat of. Okay. All righty. Be no action regarding agenda item number 6. Item number 7, discussion of possible action on recommendations of the Planning Commission. Item 7A, discussion of possible action on Planning Commission recommendation to approve the final plat of Chickasaw Crossing, Section 1, table from May 13th, 2024, City Council meeting. We have a community development director in the house.
She's getting controlled.
Oh, she is.
So Chickasaw Crossing, Janae Greenlee, the Newcastle Planning Department, from what I understood is that he's asking for a deferment until July.
That was my understanding, that a month to talk about it and hopefully have it. Is that correct, Kendall?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
You're requesting a deferment
Yeah,
until July.
Yeah,
City
we'll
Council.
request it be deferred until the July meeting or your next city council.
Okay. If that's the
Is
case.
that, I hope that's long enough, right?
Okay.
Okay. If that's the case, then there's no need to have a lot of discussion on this. I'll make a motion to continue this item to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
Motion and second for continuance.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White,
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 7B, discussion of possible action on planning commission recommendation to approve the final plat of Creekside Estates.
For some reason, it's moving very slow. Okay, item 7B, final plat of Creekside Estates. This is located approximately a half mile east of South May on Southeast 32nd, approximately 21.75 acres. This is a E1 Suburban Estates residential subdivision for 7 single-family lots, all greater than 2.5 acres. Drainage will not exceed pre-development flows, and therefore on-site detention is not required. It will utilize on-site sanitary sewer. An 8-inch water line will serve the subdivision that is existing off of Southeast 32nd Street. They requested a variance along the frontage. There is no other subdivisions along this road that would require an upsize to that 12-inch line. So they're asking for a variance from that. There's one access into the subdivision on Hermosa Drive, and staff recommends approval of the final plat, meeting all the subdivision requirements of Chapter 153, and Planning Commission recommended approval with a vote of 5-0. The applicant and their engineer is here for any additional questions.
Will that be a city street or will that be a private drive? I can't remember.
That is a private drive.
Okay.
And private drainage,
Okay. Very good.
or ditches, I
Yeah, it
should
is.
say.
Very good. Okay. Is there any public comment concerning this agenda item? All right. Seeing none, I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve agenda item 7B.
I'll second.
Motion second for approval of item number 7B.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White, yes, Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 7C, discussion of possible action on planning commission recommendation to approve the final plat of Newcastle Farms Phase 2.
This request is a final plat for Newcastle Farms Phase 2. OKCL Development is the developer, and LTS Engineering is the applicant's engineer. This is the second phase and final phase of Newcastle Farms. It's for 143 lots that are single family, the 7,200 square foot lots. The drainage is constructed in phase 1. Pre-existing offsite flows have been reduced by 10%. They'll utilize the 8-inch taps from phase 1 for their sanitary sewer, and same for water. There's 3 access points provided in phase 1, 2 along South Main Street on Highway 62, and 1 emergency crash gate onto South Dickerson Avenue. All the requirements for Chapter 153 have been met. Planning Commission recommended approval with a vote of 5-0.
Well, the comment I have on this one, real quick, is I did notice there were significant number of complaints about the dirt washing out on Highway 62. Have we addressed that with the developer?
Yes, extensively.
Okay.
I've talked to their contractor, I've talked to the engineer. They have done some cleanup and remediation of the silt fencing. They still need to do a little bit. When I drove by, there is a little bit still left. I feel like they need to really clean it off a little bit better, but just they need to keep after making sure that those construction entrances are kept up, and we have definitely talked to them.
Very good. Is there any public comment concerning this agenda item? And a motion.
Motion to approve agenda item 7C.
I'll second.
Motion second for approval of item number 7C.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White,
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item 7D, discussion of possible action on adoption of ordinance number 973, amending the Newcastle Code Ordinance, Title 15, Land Usage, Chapter 154, Planning and Zoning, Section 154.131, providing for procedures for designation of use and minor amendments to the future land use map and establishing land use amendment fee.
So as you know, we adopted our comprehensive plan and future land use map back in January of '24. In the comprehensive plan, there's not it allows for the land use amendments to make sure that your zoning and your land use are concurrent. And this is just a ordinance amendment to allow us to have a filing fee for processing these applications. And do the work of changing.
Does the future land use map show up on the ArcGIS too?
Yes, it does.
Okay, but they're different layers.
They're different layers.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
Public comment concerning this agenda item? I'm not a super big fan of lots and lots of additional fees. To me, it would almost be better to combine all of these fees. If you're going to zoning, that's going to end up causing a change in the land use map, to combine them all in one, so we didn't have we can work on that in the future.
You might not always have a land use amendment if we do as good as I hope we do.
Right.
You might not always have a land use
I
amendment.
might go with what we.
Yeah, and it's not based like our rezoning fees. This isn't based on your area. You know, as you have more acreage that you're rezoning, those fees go up. Zoning, this is just a flat fee. So it could be a quarter section that you were going to be land use amendment on, and it's still going to be the same, whereas the rezoning fees are tiered.
What if it doesn't result in a change in the land use?
Then there would not be the fee.
There would not be the fee.
Oh, okay. So it's
So-
only.
It's only if you have to do a land use amendment. Not every time that you do a rezoning will you potentially have a land use amendment.
Okay. I can get behind that.
So like if we have it as marked as industrial, but they come in and want to do a commercial, then they would pay the fee because we'd have to change that.
Correct.
But because we can't hold them to what our plan is, because that was
And
the thing.
yeah,
We can
Well,
show-
look at, staff will look at their request
Yeah.
when we evaluate what their rezoning request is, and then we look at the land use.
But if
as
they're
well.
industrial going in industrial, then this wouldn't even apply.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, I kind of planning commission has recommended, so unless there's any other comments, motion to approve agenda item 7B with as proposed by the motion second for approval of 7D.
Yes.
Marcy White?
Yes.
Item 7E, discussion of possible action on adoption of the emergency clause of ordinance number 973. Jeff, can we approve this since we only have 3 members? It's always
Yeah.
supposed to be 4 is what we were
Oh, for
told.
emergency clauses?
for emergency
Oh,
clause.
yeah, 3/4, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right, 3/4.
Okay, so
You can't.
we can't, so we're unable to take action on item number 7E. Item 7F, discussion and possible action on adoption of the ordinance number 974, amending the Newcastle Code of Ordinances, Title 15 Land Usage, Chapter 150, Building Regulations, amending electrical permit fees in Table 2 of Appendix A.
Basically, this, this ordinance amendment, when we adopted Chapter 150 and went to the 2018 building code, and we made the appendix, there was a mistake, and it included that line 7 for safe room storm shelter, and it should not be in there. That's in building, and so it just is cleaning up the appendix A.
So did it increase the minor wiring on commercial to 100? Is that part of this change as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it did.
Okay,
Yes, it did.
all right. Any public comment on this agenda item? Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 7F.
Motion second for approval of item number 7F.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White,
Yes.
Yes. Item 7G, discussion and possible action on adoption of the emergency clause of ordinance number 974. Be no action on that agenda item due to lack of adequate commissioners. Item number 7H, discussion and possible action on planning commission recommendation to approve the final plat of Windermere 8.
This is the final plat for Windermere 8. Windermere is the Newcastle Development is the owner, and Blue and Associates is the engineer. This is for 58 single-family lots, 7,200 square feet for each lot. Drainage is constructed in previous phases of the Windermere development, and they also have off-site drainage for this that will be to the east. Sanitary sewer will connect with the extension of the sewer down from Meadow Creek along Northwest 16th. Water will be the 12-inch water line along Northwest 16th and Country Club. Access is 2 points, one along Northwest 16th and another one on Country Club. They're not utilizing the private drive that is for the storage. They're actually going to have their own access onto Northwest 16th. Staff recommends approval, meets all requirements of Chapter 153, and Planning Commission recommended approval with a vote of 5-0.
So they will be 7,200 square foot lots.
That is correct.
I have a question. When I was reading that, so it said they'll share the drainage with the future development of the Grove, but they're doing the drainage now. The Grove will just share it when it comes along.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure I read it right.
Yes, ma'am.
Any public comment concerning this agenda item?
Make a motion to approve item H.
Second. Oh, sorry, Mike.
Motion second for approval of item 7H.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item 8. Thank you very much. Item 8, discussion and possible action on the request of Charter Oak Production Company LLC for 1 year extension of time for permitted uses and activities under UPOR 2023-012, dated June 12, 2023 for the Orvis 1-35-26-23XH, located in section 2-8 North, 4 West, McLean County, Oklahoma. Property location south side of Southeast 32nd Street, approximately 1/2 mile east of Highway 62.
I believe this permit was actually approved in June of '23. They're coming up on their 1 year expiration and requesting an extension of 1 year to drill.
Yes, Andy Kapczynski, I'm the land manager of Charter Oak, and as you're probably aware, there's some radio towers there that had electric service. We were aware of that, worked with OEC to get those lines removed, did our one call so we could start building the pad, and there was a unrecorded fiber optic line that ran underneath that utility. And so we started the process of working with Pioneer to get them to move that line. Fortunately, we're working on their schedule. they told us 45 to 60 days at that point in time. We do have the new easement form, and I was told as of today, it appears they're out there working, but obviously we got delayed on being able to build the pad. So we had to push back our contractors. But once that line is moved, our intent is to go and kind of back up where we left off. But, I don't believe we can have anything done before Wednesday.
Yeah.
Ticking the clock.
We've already approved this, and it's just an extension of the existing approval, so. Any public comment concerning this agenda item? All right.
Thank you. Make a motion to approve agenda item 8.
Motion is second for approval of item number 8.
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 9, discussion of possible action on approval of the street improvement program for fiscal year 2024-25.
I listed all of these projects in the city manager report, and they were also discussed in the budget presentation on May 16th. It's roughly, I believe it's roughly 2.4, 2.5 million. Some of these projects most likely won't get done, but they are on the plan for the year.
Questions, concerns? Any public comment concerning this agenda item? Entertain a motion.
To approve item number 9 for the street improvements.
Second.
Motion is second for approval of item number 9.
Mike Fullerton.
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 10, public hearing, discussion, and possible action on approval of annual budget of the city of Newcastle, including amendments thereto, if any, for fiscal year July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, to include a 2.5% COLA for all non-union employees, excluding the city manager, and adoption of resolution number 2024-06.
Same item as NPWA. Again, there have been no changes to the city budget as well. May 16th.
I make a motion to approve agenda item 10, fiscal year 24-25 budget as written.
Motion second for approval of item number 10.
Mike Fullerton.
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 11, public hearing, discussion, and possible action on approval of annual budget of the Newcastle Economic Development Authority, including amendments thereto, if any, for fiscal year July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, and adoption of resolution number 2024-07.
There's really no expenditures associated with this budget. Revenue would only come right now anyway from the billboard that the city owns. And at this time, it's not receiving any revenue. Most likely, the city has asked the city attorney to look into small claims on that billboard due to non-receipt of payment from the people that were actually renting that billboard. That's another topic, but budget's very simple for this fund. This entity.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 11.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item number 11.
Mike Fullerton.
Yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 12, discussion and possible action on 2024-2025 memorandum of understanding between the city of Newcastle and the Newcastle Chamber of Commerce.
So staff had a meeting with the Chamber of Commerce a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. Chamber of Commerce is requesting an increase in funding from the city from $10,000 a year to $25,000. Nothing was discussed further as far as any change to the agreement, except for the funding. I had the assistant city manager check with some other cities as to what they are contributing toward their chambers. She checked with several. She checked with some of the larger cities, some that are very close to us, some in the medium range. They're anywhere between $20,000 and $30,000 a year. For the bigger cities that you get into, $25,000. So that's kind of where that's at. Of course, this contract is up to council as to how you want to fund the Chamber of Commerce.
In the past, in our previous agreements, when we were funding similar to this level, the city did have an ex officio member of the board of directors.
And that's still included.
Is that still included?
Yes.
Okay. Are we actually attending those board meetings, or?
We have not in quite some time, but I foresee in the future that we will be doing that. Things that would allow us to do that.
Okay, very good. I have no issues. You know, I think the chamber does a great job for us, and you know, that whatever happened to end up with the decrease in our contribution and our agreement, I have no issues whatsoever moving to the $25,000. Any public comment on this agenda item? Any comments from council or questions? That's easy peasy. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve agenda item 12.
I'll second.
Do we need to indicate increasing to 25,000?
Oh, sorry. Make a motion to approve agenda item 12, increasing from $10,000 for the fiscal year to $25,000.
I'll second that.
Motion second for approval of item number 12 with increase.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White,
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 13, discussion of possible action to decrease the speed limit to 35 mile per hour on South Pennsylvania between Southeast 32nd and Highway 9 at the request of residents in the area.
I have received a couple of emails from residents in this area. Of course, I'm sure everyone saw the news report on South Penn. And it was just a few days after that news report that I received these email requests asking the city to lower that speed limit to 35. You know, with the narrow road right now, yes, we do have plans to widen Penn. It's not going to be this year. We are going to overlay it. But to get it widened is going to take much more work in a longer period of time. We can get the overlay done and repair that road, widen it just a tiny bit anyway, try to capture a little bit more on the outside and reshape some ditches. So it's probably not a bad idea. I think I would recommend lowering that to 35. Just to.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, if we lower the speed limit, is it going to do any good? Number one.
Well,
It's changed the way people drive on a country club.
Quite honestly, I mean, you know, I think that's something that folks just don't understand is speeders are going to speed. It doesn't matter what the speed limit is that's posted.
Man, I don't have a problem lowering the speed limit. It just, are we going to see a significant change in it?
I mean, when they did on Country Club, because of that narrow bridge right there, yeah, it's called training. I trained myself. Slow down, slow down. It's going to be a cop. It's going to be a cop. It's going to be a cop. That's what I call in the neighborhood.
Police officer.
A police officer, yes. But I do, like, it trained me to slow down because that is a very dangerous bridge right there. That's just the way humans work. And so, you know, I got complaints from my own family, but I guarantee we all slowed down. And it's a very dangerous bridge, and you have to. But, you know, I mean, we could put I don't think our thing is working right now, is it?
No, we did.
Our little,
actually, the day after
to train, for training.
Actually, the day after that news report, I contacted the street department, and we got that little thingy, as you said.
The motion, it's not motion when you do the note.
Whatever, we had it set out there.
Yeah.
As far as I know, it's still out there.
Yeah, it'd probably be good for a little while because whatever we have to do to help people to remember, because it's a memory thing. It really is. I mean, if you're used to something and you live there for a long time, it's a memory thing, not always a willful. There will be willful people that do it. And that's going to be unfortunate if they get a ticket. But honestly, my husband sat in on the jury for that terrible, terrible accident, and it was bad. It was very bad. It impacted him a lot just sitting in on that. So it's...
If nothing else, I think if it gives residents in the area peace of mind that, yes, the city is attempting to do everything we can in that area, then I think it's probably worth it. And from 45 to 35 for a half-mile stretch, doesn't seem that big of a deal to me.
No,
But
I mean, it doesn't, I'm just, we still got stop signs that people just blow on right on through.
well, I mean, that's just the nature of traffic. I mean, that's-
You just, I was sitting at the doctor's office at 7:45 this morning, and somebody goes flying through town with his jake brake on for about a half mile.
Oh my gosh.
That's not legal, and it's
Nope.
right through the middle of town, but,
Nope.
we only have a certain number of officers to cover a big area, and so we'll catch some of them, but it's,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
I have no issues with lowering it. I probably travel that road more than anybody else on the council, and I just don't want to hear any complaints when we ticket the residents
Right.
along there that wanted it lowered, which we've had that happen multiple times.
Yeah.
In other parts of the city, we lower it, and then the residents say, "Well, I didn't want you to give me a ticket. I wanted you to give all those other people
Right.
a ticket that were driving."
Right.
So,
Just the out-of-towners.
I have people pass me because I will not go. I'm like, I am not getting a ticket. I'm not getting, and they will pass me on the road. And I'm like, I remember what your car looks like, because I'm going the speed limit. But got to be safe.
any public comment concerning this agenda item? All right, entertain a motion.
Motion approved agenda item 13.
Second,
Motion second for approval of item number 13.
Mike Fullerton,
yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item 14, discussion of possible action on approval of adjustment to City Hall hours and employee hourly work week from 9-hour days Monday through Thursday and 4-hour days on Fridays. Public Works.
Motion approved agenda item 14.
Second,
Motion second for approval of item number 14.
Mike Fullerton,
yes.
Marcy White.
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. Item number 15, city manager comments.
just a quick update on our, Jeanette, if you will just give a quick update on the grant situation, kind of where we're at with that. Caught you off guard, didn't I?
I had to wake her up over there. Buzzer.
Facebook. Today we received a notice from the state that the Osage Nation is going to require us to do a study for the pavilion grant. So we've reached out to the same company that did the study for the ball field grant. They've said, yes, absolutely. Now we're going to just kind of look at a cost estimate. So just do the area where the grant is actually going to be and also a cost of the entire park. Just because if we do intend to
Right.
apply for this grant again for other projects, and if we're just going to have to pay, it may be more cost effective to do the entire park. So we will look at that, but it will not, when they require these, they are not reimbursable as a part of the grant. It's going to be out of pocket.
Is that like an archaeological type?
It is.
To look, okay.
On average, is these things running?
I believe the ball field one, I can't remember, it's been a little bit, was around $6,000 or $7,000,
Yes.
if I'm correct. So, so just, it depends on really the land area and then what all that entails. But even though we've dug out the pond and the secondary pond, and we've done other grants and other projects, they are basically requiring these on pretty much every project that.
Osage? Is that because they had historical?
Anything in the state of Oklahoma, historically, there are 6 tribes that have to be notified. Osage covers the entire state.
Oh, so were they the 5 civilized or the 6th civilized tribe?
Well, it's not even that. It's with federal government, with my job, there are 6 we have to notify
Really?
for anywhere in the state of Oklahoma.
I think we actually have more than that. There's another one that
Yeah, there's 7.
it's like 6 or 7 tribes within one. I think there was several out of the kind of Anadarko area, but
Well-
this is the only tribe on any of our projects that
That
has
responded.
required these studies.
Okay, cool.
The state and everybody else is just that basically, if you find something, you stop the project and you notify them, but they are requiring a full study.
Okay.
So we will proceed with
That's
that.
one of those things that dawned on me.
You just said a couple things. Now you just
Is that it? Am I good?
you talked too long. Now he's on.
It means something different to everybody. The city, we have hired an engineering firm, contracted with an engineering firm, WSB, to assist with our engineering duties that need to take place. We only have the interim city engineer. He is on a part-time basis. So, and right now he's completely out of pocket. So we have contracted with them, a full year's contract for them is about $113,000. And it's on an as-needed basis, so 113, a little over 113 is maximum cost that we could see. And then we are still advertising for a week. If we get that, we still anticipate staying on a contract with WSB in a very limited capacity, but still, there may be areas that we still need to use them because Janae and her crew back there, they are getting so busy with trying to review plats and just all kinds of different things that one engineer is probably just not going to be able to handle it. So that's kind of where we're at with that. On the city land down here, we did meet with FSB, who is designing that for us and laying that out. Went really well. It's very preliminary. It's just a kickoff meeting. I think I put this in my report, but I may not have. But it went real well. They came in with a design of what they thought initially. Jeanette let them know real quick that this isn't going to work. You got to change it. But no, I'm just kidding. We got them back on where we think they need to be based on discussions in economic development meetings and things of that nature. So got them on track with that. They're going to come back rather than just one proposal or a concept. They're going to come back with 3 or 4 concepts that we can look at.
How much of that will we be able to use? Like, I know part of it's kind of
About 6.5 acres total, maybe 7-ish. And then the last thing I had, the radio tower at the police department collapsed on us a couple of weeks ago. Just out of the blue, fell over, left about, that's a 65-foot tower, it left about 15, 20 feet standing. All of our antennas hit the ground.
Yeah.
It's right there by that little road that comes in off of 62. Very, very lucky nobody was coming in, although it did not fall across that road.
What could have caused that?
It's a wind climate.
Yeah, it's uninsured. In 2011, when the tornado came through there, 185 mile an hour wind, I can't remember what radio company it was. I think it was Chickasaw Communications. Came out, looked at that, and told management at that time that tower was actually bowed. It was leaning after that tornado.
Yeah.
And it was never stabilized. It was never repaired. So it's collapsed. And of course, we've had some high winds, a few storms here recently that's had some high winds or whatever. I think it just finally finished it off. We're probably looking at, and they did get the antennas back on. Surprisingly enough, the antennas, everything was still working. We never lost communication. So we had Lawton Communication come out. They put all the antennas back on the part that's still standing. Everything is still functional. But we are receiving quotes, should have them this week, I hope, to construct or to install a 40-foot tower is what's being told to us that we need. But this tower will be mounted to the back of the PD and anchored
along the wall.
So we won't have this issue again. And then all the cabling will be rerouted. Right now, we've got cabling out there that's probably 30 foot of it that's not even being used. We're losing power signal. So they're going to do all of that as well. And whatever company gets it, and I anticipate Lawton Communication will get it. But and they're telling us, Lawton's telling us that we may only be looking at $10,000 or $15,000 for this whole deal. So pretty cheap. I was surprised, but they've been out and looked at it, so we'll see where it comes in.
If I'm remembering correctly, and if we ever need it, I believe the cellular tower that's north of Southeast 16th Street and east of Highway 62, when we approved that tower, part of the agreement was they would allow the city to place antennas on that tower should we need to.
I remember that. Southeast 16th North?
Yeah. That one that's going to right out there in the old Robertson property.
Okay.
That was part of that agreement then,
just
in case we ever needed it. But I just remember that.
Well, they found it really strange that everything was still working. They said we've never seen that happen. But
the slow fall. Did somebody see it fall, or did they just drive by there?
No, the emergency management director found it.
Oh, Donnie found it.
Yeah.
That it?
That's it.
All right. Item number 16, council member comments.
Just got a question. I mean, I kind of asked Kevin earlier a little bit about the MA date, June 30th for units. unless rain or something happens.
Wouldn't be by June 30th.
It'll probably be after June 30th. It'll be in the next budget year before it's complete.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions?
I was out of town, so I was catching up online. I guess all the phone relay, the phone voicemail issues are realigned or whatever that was going on. Reading through, and I was like, "Wow!" I'm so glad you commented. Like, you're always really good and clear on there, and I think that goes a long way with people. And so we've got that redone.
It's not resolved yet, but we have had discussions on setting up. We talked about City Hall specifically, but it needs to happen at every single department. We can't have a call come in and go straight to a voicemail box.
Yeah.
Or press this, press that. If we're open for service, or if the receptionist or whoever is not busy, or is busy, then it can go to the voicemail.
Yeah.
But if we're open and nobody's busy and that phone rings, somebody needs to answer it.
Yeah.
I get irritated when I don't get a live person.
I do too.
I'm sure everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Scott will be working on, trying to set that up with Pioneer.
Cool. Okay, great. I was just glad you got on there and commented. It was really good. You always very well worded, and usually everything goes chink and just stops when you get on and really explain. So it was good.
I appreciate that, but I'd just rather see the misinformation stop.
When that's what I mean. Like, you're good at giving the facts, and that helps stop it right away.
Alrighty. Item number 17A, discussion of possible action upon advice of council to enter into an executive session as permitted under 25 OS 307B3, discussing the purchase or appraisal of real property, 333 Northwest 32nd Street. Item 17B, discussion of possible action upon entering into an executive session as permitted under 25 OS Section 307B2, discussing negotiations concerning employees and representative employee groups, Twin Cities Lodge number 135, collective bargaining agreement. Item 17C, fire the city treasurer, discussion of possible action upon entering into an executive session as permitted under 25 OS Section 307B2, discussing negotiations concerning employees and representatives of employee groups, IAFF Local 3910 collective bargaining agreement. I'll make a motion to enter into an executive session with our city manager, assistant city manager, city attorney, and Christopher Lynn present.
Second.
Motion and second to enter into executive session.
Mike Fullerton,
Yes.
Marcy White,
Yes.
Carl Nell.
Yes. We will take a 5-minute break.
Yes.